Hello, welcome to Big Picture Monday. This is Cali Black. I am currently on maternity leave, so this video is pre-recorded so that you can still get all the good story stuff for what you need for this week. This week we are studying Exodus chapters 24 and then 31 through 34. Last week we ended with Exodus chapter 20. So we're skipping a few chapters before we start with chapter 24, and then we're skipping some more before 31 through 34. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but we really are going to start skipping a lot more chapters now as we kind of breeze through. I feel like Genesis and Exodus are really packed with this like story and now we're gonna really breeze through a lot of these upcoming books as we study them. So just heads up, this is gonna happen more often. But the Come Follow Me creators, the ones who work to create the manual, they have said that the way that they picked which chapters we were going to study or which chapters we weren't going to study kind of came down to two criteria. And the first is, what themes and lessons did they feel like were most relevant for our time? Which I'm so grateful that they pondered on that. And then the second one is they wanted to avoid repetition. There is so much in the Old Testament that there's so much that repeats itself. And we're actually going to see an example of this week and next week. So just wanted to give you a heads up that that's when we're skipping a lot of chapters. I will fill you in briefly on what happens. If you have my big picture, little picture study guide, I go into much more detail there so you feel like super confident, but I'll still in these videos give you a little glimpse of what we're skipping. But basically we're hitting the themes that we need to hit, and we're not spending time studying things that we've already studied. Okay, so let's jump into what's actually happening in these chapters. So, like I said, we start with Exodus chapter 24. In Exodus 20, where we left off last week, that was the big 10 Commandments chapter, right? Moses and, well, the Lord had given the commandments, the 10 Commandments to the people. In the chapters we skip, 21 through 23, it's basically the Lord just giving Moses even more commandments. Lots of commandments. The reason why we don't study them, though, is that a lot of them are more civil in nature. It's more like how the children of Israel specifically needed to coexist and work together. So they're not as applicable to us as the 10 Commandments. They don't have like that spiritual application as much. So that's why we're skipping those. But basically the Lord gives a whole bunch of more commandments to the children of Israel, more than just the 10 Commandments. But in chapter 24, the children of Israel have now heard these commandments and they make a covenant. They make a covenant to obey God, because they have just heard all of these commandments and they want to seal this with a covenant. So that's what we study in the chapter that we do study, 24, that they are willing to make a covenant with God in order to continue to keep these commandments. And then Moses and the 70 elders of Israel, who are kind of some leaders there, are invited partway up the mountain. They get to see the Lord on the mountain. And then even after that, Moses is invited all the way up the mountain to spend some more time with the Lord. So it's 24 is just like this powerful spiritual experience of everyone covenanting to obey him, and then people getting to see the Lord, and then Moses being invited to even go closer. Now, Moses is going to stay at the top of the mountain now for 40 days and 40 nights. Is a long time. So we skip chapters 25 through 30 in Exodus. And basically what we're skipping is the Lord teaching Moses very detailed directions on how to build a tabernacle. Now you might be thinking, well, I should probably learn that, right? I should probably know all these detailed directions on how to build a tabernacle. Here's where the repetition part comes in. Next week, we're going to read the counterpart to these scriptures, which is when Moses and the children of Israel then execute these commandments and build the tabernacle. And we will get a play-by-play, a very detailed play-by-play of how that all happens next week. So there's no point in studying the same scriptures 2 weeks in a row, like literally the same. So that's what you're skipping in 25 through 30, is just whole bunch of directions from the Lord on the tabernacle, what it is, how to build it. And in fact, when we pick up in chapter 31, when we start studying, you're going to see the tail end of that. So you're going to see the Lord being like, and these are the people who should be the workers and be leading the construction of the tabernacle. So you'll see kind of the tail end of that, just so you have a little bit of context for like, wait, what's the Lord talking about here? And then the Lord teaches Moses about the Sabbath day. He gives some really great scriptures about the Sabbath day. So it's this beautiful experience. And then the Lord writes these commandments on 2 tablets of stone. 2 beautiful stone tablets with the finger of the Lord. He writes the commandments onto it. Now, chapter 32. We got to take a little side story here because while Moses is having this beautiful experience with the Lord and being taught about such important and holy things, he left his brother Aaron in charge back down at the foot of the mountain with all of the children of Israel. And it seems like the children of Israel panicked. They had no idea how long Moses was going to be gone for. They didn't know that it was going to be 40 days and 40 nights. So after a while, people are like, what happened to Moses? Is he gone? Is he coming back? Like, they truly were panicked about this. And so they reached immediately for what would make them the most comfortable. And they pled with Aaron, who was there in charge, and said, we need an idol to worship. And it seems like Aaron was okay with that or led this. It's a little hard to tell exactly what his role was in this process, but they built a golden calf. And that was something that was very familiar and comfortable to them. They were able to worship the golden calf and offer sacrifices to the golden calf. And they felt much more in control at that point. Now, meanwhile, back up on the mountain, the Lord is finishing up with Moses and gives Moses a heads up. Like, by the way, when you go back down the mountain, you're going to see the children of Israel making some terrible decisions. And Moses immediately starts pleading for their mercy. I see this pattern over and over with Moses, and I love it. I mean, he was truly taking on this role of advocate. I love it. Anyways, but he immediately starts pleading with the Lord for mercy for the children of Israel. And the Lord is like, all right, go down the mountain. So Moses heads down the mountain, and he's got these 2 stone tablets with the writing of the Lord on it, right? And he's off 40 days from beautiful spiritual high, and he comes down and he sees the people worshiping a golden calf, turning away from the covenants and the commandments that they had just committed to keep. And he is so angry that he throws the tablets on the ground and breaks them. He destroys the golden calf, and he asks everyone, who's on the Lord's side? Who's on the Lord's side? You need to pick a side. And in fact, if people decided they were not on the Lord's side, Moses got rid of them because he did not want them to be with the children of Israel anymore. But Moses then pleads for mercy on behalf of the children of Israel. I mean, that's just the pattern that he does as he pleads to the Lord. In chapter 33, we see the Lord who is very unhappy with the children of Israel, and he makes that known. And he says, you can't just make these covenants and turn away from them right away. Like that was a sacred covenant. These are important commandments. That's not something that we can be doing. And he won't even show his face to Moses anymore, because he says this is not what the children of Israel need. And then in the last chapter, chapter 34, things start to get a little better. The Lord invites Moses back up to the mountain again, and asks Moses to bring his own tablets of stone so that the Lord can write the law on it again. And the Lord does give the law again, but we especially get tons of clarity from this from modern revelation. The Lord took away the greater priesthood and instead left them with the lesser priesthood, a lesser law and a lesser priesthood for them to follow, since they had already turned away from the greater law and the greater priesthood so quickly. So in other words, they no longer have access to the Melchizedek priesthood. Well, we know that we know that Moses had the Melchizedek priesthood, and now they are being left with the Aaronic priesthood. And Aaron is the high priest of the Aaronic priesthood. And so we know that the children of Israel are left with that. But it is kind of like this season of renewal. The Lord does give the new commandments and teach them about, love and mercy. And this is really the theme that we're going to see all throughout the children of Israel, is that the Lord always forgives. The Lord always gives mercy. And when Moses is done with this experience on the mountain again, he comes back down and his face is shining. His face is shining because of that experience with the Lord. And that's it. That's what we study this week, is kind of these two main trips that Moses makes up the mountain. One is receiving a whole bunch of direction, and then he comes down and realizes how quickly the children of Israel have turned away from the Lord. The Lord makes it clear how displeased he is, but then he always offers mercy and forgiveness, and Moses gets to go back up the mountain to talk to the Lord even more. Pretty cool pattern that we see over and over again in like Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Children of Israel just need this pattern, and boy, don't we need that pattern too, right? That is it for the story for this week. I think my personal question, it might seem a little obscure, but I just think about how when Moses had to climb a mountain to get in the presence of the Lord. I mean, this guy is over 80 years old. I don't even like climbing mountains. That's not really my thing. And yet Moses put in the work and the effort, and he used the strength that he had in order to enter into the presence of the Lord. And I think personally, what sacrifices am I making? Am I putting in hard work and actual effort in order to be in more holy places or to be in the presence of the Lord? And maybe how I could make a greater effort to actually be in places like that, because it takes work. It takes work to get there. Okay, I hope you have a great week this week studying about Moses and the children of Israel and this golden calf situation, but more importantly, those themes of love and mercy and forgiveness that accompany commandments and covenants as well. Okay, have a great week and happy studying.